You talked about the value of being in nature and dealing with grief. I mentioned your brothers. I have a brother and a sister. I couldn't imagine losing them and or losing anyone that we love. And so many people listening to this podcast have lost people that they've loved. What was the process like, and what are some of the are there exercises? Are there mindset things when you're in nature? How can people cope with grief? Because you've processed this, it's worked with you, it's helped you. Walk our listeners through maybe some things that stand out to you.
Yeah. I don't know if my answer is going to be specifically useful to people, but it might be generally useful to people. So for me, the thing that helps me get into that mindset, well, I'll start with a story. So years and years ago, when I lost my first brother, when I lost Peter to a motorcycle accident, I responded to this, well, after being completely lost for the better part of a year. I decided that I would try and I didn't think of this. I'm going to heal from Peter by doing a
Right.
solo canoe trip, but I felt drawn to do a solo canoe trip. And I went and did a solo canoe trip. And after a few days of being out there, just, doing the normal canoeing stuff, I was paddling down a very large river, the Athabasca River in Alberta. And out of nowhere, I got clubbed across the back of the head by grief. And one minute I'm paddling, going, oh yeah, look at that tree. And the next minute I'm sitting in the boat sobbing. And I had not cried about Peter up until that point. I had gone into emergency management mode and dealing with it and what needs to happen and what do I do and I had very efficiently gotten absolutely nowhere in dealing with the grief, but I had managed to stave it off. And then all of a sudden it came back. And after being just inconsolable for a period of time, it slowly got better. So my answer for myself is time alone in nature for an extended period of time. Now, that's not necessarily the way that other people are going to deal with it. But for me, the things about nature, especially going alone into nature, is it creates an autonomy. It creates, you are ultimately responsible for everything that happens. Everything is your fault. Everything needs to be done by you. It creates a connection with nature, so a connection with something greater than yourself. And it allows you the time and the space to go inward, right? Your phone is turned off, or at least it's not in cell service anymore. So that ping, ping, ping from the outside world is off. So, and I think those two things, at least for me, the ability to turn inward and the ability to connect with nature, provide that space for the processing to occur at a subconscious level, really. My body is obsessed with stroke, stroke, stroke. Take a paddle, take a little correction stroke to get around that log. It's almost the same. And I don't practice Zen Buddhism, but you hear about Zen Buddhist practices of raking gravel or reaching enlightenment through cutting bamboo. And for me, my cutting of bamboo is paddling and doing the same thing again and again and again to kind of occupy the body and occupy sort of the procedural mind. Oh, I should go a little bit to the left. I should go a little bit to the right. Oh, the wind is coming from the north. That means I should go to this part of the lake. It sort of distracts the monkey mind and then allows the deeper processing to happen at a level below. I'm not going to say I was out there thinking profound thoughts. A lot of it is procedural. What do I do next? Oh, what is that? Look, here's some plants that are bent over in the current and they're bent over and they're not exactly in line with the river. What does that mean? Well, it means the water is going that way, but it creates the space. So I have no specific advice. If people want to do a long solo canoe trip to deal with grief, there's a bunch of stuff that you should do first, like acquiring the skills and the equipment and the knowledge. And if they want, they can reach out to me and I can help them with that. But I realize this is a very unique solution. It's my solution, and my solution isn't going to be your solution.
Well, what I take from that is not so much that if in severe grief that I need to take a solo canoe trip. What I get from that, and I think what listeners will hear here is, you know, I think when grief strikes, so often we look externally for someone or something to heal us or to numb us or to take us away from whatever it is that we're dealing with. And what you're talking about is going inward. What you're talking about is grounding. What you're communicating is becoming one with your own thoughts and actually allowing yourself to process those thoughts. Because people will leave, I think a lot of people will either stay in grief because they continue to search for that external reinforcement, or they do what you described. I know a lot of men are definitely well known for pushing it down, but it's not just men. I mean, there's lots of moms that go into mom mode and lock it up and hold it down and keep the family moving forward while they're struggling on major
And they
things.
have to. And it's like the world doesn't stop just because you're sad. Like your mortgage payments keep coming,
Right.
or your kids still need their lunch packed, and it's honorable. Like you should, but at the same time, how do you create that space to grieve and you know not drown out the pain with addictive behavior? I mean, uh, in my case, I don't drink at all. There are way too many alcoholics in my family. But in that moment, I could see why people start drinking, right? It would numb pain. And so what other behaviors is one doing to numb pain, right? There can be things that are addictive, but not as destructive as booze or drugs. And, you know, uh, how do you create that time and that space to go inward? I think you're exactly right. And that can be tough. I mean, if you're a working mother grieving the loss of her mother or grieving the loss of, God help you, a kid, that, that's a tough row to hoe. How do you do that? And it's not necessarily, okay, now I'm going to take this month off, because you don't know when you're ready to deal with it, right? This is something that it'll let you know when you're ready to deal with it.
Yeah, and I think what the other interesting part about what you said is, our phones are a great resource for freedom in a lot of ways. We can go anywhere, we can do anything, and yet they ping us constantly. And with distraction, it's very difficult to be connected or grounded anywhere. I mean, it's amazing how free you feel. Every once in a while, even just going to a dinner or something, I forget my phone and I just leave it. And it's so freeing because there's no distractions. You're fully present. I think in order to heal, we have to be fully present in whatever space it is that we need to connect to make sure of that. And for me, spiritually, that would be really, really important. So, that's where I lean. But the reality is nothing can get you uh, more grounded than just being out in nature and being one with the land and the atmosphere. And so there's so many great takeaways there, Stefan. And I think sometimes just sharing your version and your story can make for a great reference point for people to find what their canoe trip might be, or what their nature trip might be. Maybe for that mom who's struggling with the grief of a loss of a parent, or from the child, God forbid, it's it's just making sure, remember that you deserve that time. You deserve a break. You deserve the step away. Yes, you have to, and it's admirable and courageous to stand up and lead because the rest of your family needs it. But when you need to take that break, when you're ready to heal, take it. Go figure out what your canoe trip is and go do it, because I think it's something that can really change people's lives. And that's what you're putting out there to the world.
If you like clips like this, I have a similar clip here. And if you want to watch the full video, click here.